So what we're going to do first, I'm going to show you about 10 minutes of video, and then we're going to stop and talk a little bit, and then 10 minutes of video, and we'll stop and talk again like that. Okay. When you go to ClassDojo.com, click on the sign up button in the upper right-hand corner. Choose teacher and input your title, first and last names, email, and password. That's all you have to do. ClassDojo doesn't ask for any additional information. To log in, just click on the login button next to sign up, choose teacher, and log in with your username and password. This screen is called the Launchpad. You can see all of my courses here. To get started, click on New Class. Input the course title and grade level. For university, just choose Other and create. Okay, let's go into the class. When you enter your new class, ClassDojo will prompt you to add students. You can do this by typing the names in one by one. There we go. Or you can copy and paste your student list all at once. So here we go, copy and paste. And yeah, here we are. ClassDojo gives you a chance to check whether the names were imported correctly, and also gives you the option to flip first and last names. Okay. Here we go. We'll talk about connecting students in a little bit. This is what teacher view of your whole class will look like. I like to have all members of the same group together and looking the same. It helps keep me organized. If you'd like to do that, this is what you should do. Click on Edit Class and choose a monster to represent all members of the same group. Okay, so we've got this blue monster, and we'll do that the same for all the members that I want to have be in the same group. So you could let your students choose for themselves, or you could manage it for them. I think one more maybe. Okay, there we go. We've got an example group. The next thing I like to do when I've established my groups in class is to add the group number in front of their name. That way, when you return to the whole class view, all of the members of the same group will be sorted together. So I'm putting a 1 for group 1 in front of the names of all of these students. And you'll see that it's organized them next to each other. So if you look at the top here, you can officially create groups within ClassDojo too. Okay, so these students, as I click the arrows, these students are now in a group together. There they are. So why does that matter? Let's talk about points. Clicking on a monster will bring up a points menu. You can add and edit what you want to give points for. Click on Add Skill and give your new points a name and a point weight, maximum 5. And you can choose an icon for your points. Click out of the edit, and you can now give your student those points. These points will be added to the total in this little bubble. Now, this is what's nice about groups. If you want to assign points to a whole group at once, you can. So here we go. Let's add points for the whole group. Let's do something different. And just for fun, choose a different icon. Okay, there we go. Click out, add points. So group 1 as a whole group got those points. And those points will be added to the individual totals. It's very convenient for grading group work. Okay, so how do we invite students to ClassDojo? Click on Student Login at the top and choose At Home Login. One option is the QR code login. I used to share this one with students, but I've stopped as I prefer them using ClassDojo on their PCs. But that option is available and is a lot faster if you're teaching face-to-face. Just print and hand out. Second option, the one that I prefer now. Click on View under the individual student's name. It will link to a page like this. Share the URL to the page with the student via university email. Students can click on the login link on the right-hand side to enter their personal page. How does this connect to neurodiversity? Well, one way is in terms of reasonable accommodations for ADHD. One of the accommodations that can help a person with ADHD to thrive is help with organization. For students, there are no passwords that have to be stored and remembered. The link to ClassDojo can be kept as a saved email. If the email gets lost or deleted accidentally, all the student needs to do is reach out to you as the teacher, and you can send them their link again instantly.
Okay, so we have this question here. What are some other ways that having everything all in one place could benefit students and teachers? Okay. Do you have any questions? And your cat's tail was cute, by the way.
Yeah, so far so good. I guess we need to have the hands-on experience. For example, signing up and create our own as a ClassDojo, and we can just experience more.
Absolutely, yeah. Once you've done it one time, it's really easy. And what I was saying there, I like that I'm the only one that has to sign up with an email, and my students don't. That they can just have a link, and that's it. One of the things that turned me off from Google Classroom was how much information they wanted, and also how easy it would be to potentially lose. At the beginning of the pandemic, especially, I was looking for something that was as simple as possible. But the other side benefit that has come out of that is that students who are who do have ADHD, for example, and have a tendency to maybe lose track of things, don't have, it's easy to send that link back to them, no problem, as compared to, say, our university email system, which can take up to 2 days. You have to go to the IT office, you have to apologize, you have to ask for an ID again, and it can take 24 hours. And there's a lot of, not only is it a pain to do it, and you end up with this, kind of ADHD tax of having to do that kind of thing, where you're, kind of wasting your time. There's also, it doesn't feel good, to have to go through that. And if you can make it much more simple and much more streamlined and just plan from the beginning for that kind of situation, it helps. I have students that are dealing with anxiety, especially now since the pandemic started. Those numbers have gone up quite a lot. And to be able to check all the time on your own, everything that we have for class, and to be able to know that, okay, it's just right there. And if you feel like, well, maybe I missed something, you can check it because there's a communication tool within ClassDojo. They can contact me and say, hey, am I right? This is how I do my assignment, without it having to be in front of other people. So there's kind of a face-saving aspect there as well. And so these were just good things that I was seeing in the past couple of years using this. Okay. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I have
Okay.
a question.
Yeah.
Is adding the students joining ClassDojo.com. I have no idea. Well, I know about Dojo because of you, but I know on the name, never use it. You said the student list, and then student list by. How do you get the students list? It's from the university.
You could make it yourself. You could get it from the university.
So you have to make
however
it
you want.
yourself.
Well, at my university, I can download a list and just put it in.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Okay,
I've
so
got an
download
Excel
this.
spreadsheet and I just put it in, and there we
Yeah.
go.
So that's the process. I don't know how that's something I need to find out, how I can download the students list to get to the dojo, friendly list I need to make. So that's something I need to figure out.
No, it's nothing complicated at all. You can even type your students' names or copy your students' names into like a Word file or something like that. And you literally just highlight, copy, paste, you're done. There's no special.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. Because I
It
thought,
is nice.
do I have
Yeah.
to type in students' name, like each one of them? Because I have 24 students, and if I have like 3 classes I'm doing, that's going to be like a lot, 75.
I have 50 in each of my classes, and yes,
Oh,
that
God.
would be
Okay.
insane. So no, yeah, this has a really easy system for doing that. Yeah, I know. I don't know if they've upgraded it, but when I was first using Flipgrid a couple years ago, yes, you had to type in everything.
Right. That's why I was thinking, like, do I have to do that every single student? It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. And that was the reason I do that for the Google Classroom, that they have to have a Gmail account.
Right.
Wow.
And that was something that wasn't really looking very possible with my students at the time. I think we've come on a lot in how people feel about technology and using it and so forth. But in 2020, when I started using ClassDojo because we were going online, we had a lot of students who were afraid themselves or had families that were afraid of the idea of giving so much information away, and they were really hesitant to do that. So I was looking for some sort of resource where you didn't have to, that privacy would be protected, that you could give away. Maybe I have to do a little bit, but they don't. And this was what popped up at the time. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. We'll continue on and take a look at how we create an activity now.
So we've got students connected. The next step is to give them something to do. Click here on Portfolio and then click on Create Activity. I'm copying and pasting instructions, including a URL here. Enter the title. And choose your type of activity. I'm choosing video. Click record here on any type of activity to include video instructions from you, the teacher. Click on the camera button to record. And you can retake as often as you need. When you're happy with it, click continue and your video will upload attached to the assignment. Click assign to class and your activity is now live for students. After the first time you do it, create activity moves to a menu on the left side. So you've seen video activity, text, photo, drawing, and worksheet are also other options on ClassDojo. I tend to use video, photo, and text the most in classes. Be a little careful with worksheet. It didn't work well on some of my students' devices. It's a bit buggy and still needs work as a tool. Down here, you can choose who this activity will be assigned to. You can choose whole class, a group, or individual students. See how this activity says 5 students are assigned. The capability to set activities for specific students means that as a teacher, you can use your judgment to differentiate activities as needed for students. This is true for neurodiverse students, students with disabilities, international students, and anyone else needing some extra accommodation. It opens up space for dialogue between teacher and student about how best to reasonably support their learning and provides a way of meeting those needs discreetly.
Okay, so we've got a couple questions here again. So what kinds of differentiation have you done for your students? And what kinds of differentiation have you received yourself or wish that you had received? I'll turn it over to you, or questions about anything. In my case, it's not neurodiversity, but I have had a student in the past that had vision impairment and really needed like color contrast. So I did a set of slides that was only in black and white. And that was something that I was able to give that student themselves without saying, hey, this person has to be different. It was an accommodation that they asked for that I was able to give. What would be some other examples? A lot of time it has to do with time limits, that I can change the time limit on when something needs to be done if I know that somebody needs just a little bit more time for it. For international students I've had in the past, so we've got Chinese characters that we use here in Japan, and sometimes there'll be things that are written in Japanese, and the international students can benefit from having the simplified script above the words, but they feel a little bit shy about other people knowing that they need that resource, but it's something they can ask for and I can do quickly because I've lived here for a long time, and give them an additional link that can help a little bit with language skills. So those are just a couple of examples. How about for you?
Well, I never used this, but so I don't know how to say about.
That's okay. It's hard to do in a university classroom. Completely.
Yeah, but I want to. It's similar to Flipgrid in a way, isn't it? Like you can do video.
Oh, in terms of not necessarily differentiation, but in terms of using video assignments. Yeah, it's very much like Flipgrid, except it's private. So the thing about Flipgrid is everyone can see it unless you really go in and fiddle with the settings.
Oh, I see.
This is only between teacher and student. None of their
parents
can see it. Yeah. So what I use it for a lot in terms of the kind of video assignments I do, I'll ask students to do a presentation for me first. So it's kind of their first draft of their presentation they do for me, and they get some feedback on it. And then they do it with their peers, and they tend to have a lot more confidence that way because, okay, I've already done it one time. My teachers helped me out a little bit. And then they do it publicly in class.
I see, that makes sense. Yeah. So maybe the differentiation, maybe not be the differentiation you're expecting to hear, but some students are just so not tech savvy.
True. Yes.
And then I had trouble before, like last year at Kendai, I have to use Teams.
Yeah.
And then Flipgrid.
Yep.
And then they got lost.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Teams, they knew already about Teams. They were okay, but somehow still not really comfortable. There's always one or two students not comfortable.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they couldn't upload their video. For the Flipgrid, they couldn't upload their videos. There's no icon it's supposed to show. Depends on what kind of gadget they're using.
Right. That's
So
something that I really liked about ClassDojo is that, I mean, you'll see later on in this presentation, but students are able to upload from anything that they want to use. Like say they don't like the video tool. So ClassDojo has a video tool within it that you just press the button and do the video. But if they're not comfortable with that, if they have something on their phone they prefer to use, that's okay. They can send me a link to that on whatever they're comfortable on. It has a file upload, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. So you can just upload any kind of file. I haven't had one that has failed yet. You know, a lot of programs you can only do PDFs or you can only do this or that. I have yet to have something that has failed to upload onto ClassDojo. So that's been nice that I don't have to say it must be this way. It's whatever's comfortable for you. Send me that. Great, we're good.
that's great because for Flipgrid, I have to make this differentiation for the student. Okay, for your case, since you're using Mac, so let's do this.
If you do Windows, it's this way. Yes. Oh my
it was
goodness.
maybe frustrating for students, so that for that class evaluation, I wish we didn't have to use Flipgrid. That was confusing. Oh.
That's why I stopped doing it. I love the idea of Flipgrid, but because at the university we have so many different devices, it was an enormous headache, especially people that were doing on their phones. We have in Japan, in Japan something called a galake, so it's Galapagos Keitai, which is like what it means is it's really rare, and and some of my students had those, so it wasn't even Android or iPhone, it was something completely different, and they'd say, hey, it's not working, what do I do? I don't know. So it was a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it's a differentiation. It's something can be problem. Like your differentiation was reasonable. Okay, it's a color contrast. You have to make it clear, all that. But because of the gadget they use, and there was a tremendous effort I have to make it available for the students.
Right. Accommodation is always a dialogue between what's possible for the teacher and what's possible for the student, what the law says should be available, and so forth.
We want always like one simple way to do it, so it's not confusing for our part and it's not confusing for students.
But that's
so Dojo sounds good.
It has been good in that way. Yeah, I didn't know going in that it would be good, and they have upgraded some things as they've gone along. Like the hyperlinks in 2020 when I started using it as an LMS, you couldn't hyperlink like you can now. And that was a pain. I used to have, like you were talking about with Teams and Flipgrid being separate, I used to have Google Drive and ClassDojo separate. And as you said, that gets confusing for students. It's only two things, but it's only two things in my class. So you think about how many classes they have during the day, it gets, I imagine, really difficult to keep up with it all. So I may have done a little happy dance when they added the hyperlink, because now everything can be in ClassDojo. I just put that link and say, okay, this is where all of your things are. Okay. Any other questions? We're good.
Yeah, okay. So for me, I haven't tried, ClassDojo, but in fact, I use the combination of Google Drive and Facebook. Facebook. Yeah, in Vietnam, Facebook is very, very popular, and all the students, they have a Facebook account, and they spend time surfing Facebook all the time. And I just create a Facebook group, and then I just turn the normal Facebook into something like the social learning groups. Yeah, and in the social learning groups, we have a new tab that is called the guide. It's like the folders, and everything is is arranged, is organized in very good manner in the folders. Then we create many folders. Maybe one folder is for assignments, and in that folder we create many links. For example, link number 1 is assignment number 1, and that link goes directly to the Google Drive. Yeah. And then we can just have online instruction, and the student just click on the link and they just submit their paper or maybe their video or something. Yeah. And also we have instructions. Then the good thing is that there is notification on mobile phone, and it can reach the students instantly. Although my school, we have something like a system that is Blackboard. But
Yeah,
but in fact, it's quite boring because most students didn't want to just do something seriously. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. And Facebook is like, yeah, having fun and studying at the same time, which is it can be very
And it's
easy
something
to
everybody
create a Facebook group. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed that. So I didn't use Facebook, but early on in the pandemic, I was using Line. Do you know Line?
Yeah. Line.
I was
Line.
teaching with
Line. Yeah. Line.
Line. Yeah, I was making groups with my students there, but we had kind of like a backlash across Japan. It wasn't necessarily at my university with my specific students, but across the nation, people were saying my private life and my school life should not be together. So we started to have a problem in this country here in Japan with things like Facebook and things like Line no longer being accepted by universities. And I was a little afraid of that, which is why I went away from it. But if you still have that ability in Vietnam, that's perfect. That's fantastic. I miss using Line because of that instant connection with students and being able to notify them and they can get in touch with me immediately. ClassDojo is not quite so great that way because it doesn't send you push notifications. So you have to go in and check all of your classes. Hi, David. You have to go in and check all of your classes to see whether a student has left you a note. There's a little red circle that will say that there's a comment, but you have to go looking for it. So it's a little bit more work. So I envy you with the Facebook group a little bit.
yeah, that sounds fun.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go on a little bit with this video, and we'll talk a little bit more in a little bit here. Oh, he left.
Let's just quickly take a look at the hyperlinked material. In my case, I like to link the course materials in Google Drive. So that's where this hyperlink goes. ClassDojo is not meant for material storage, but you can connect everything your students are using easily by using links like this. Next up, in the edit menu here, let's take a look at archive activity. If you click on archive activity, it hides the activity from student view. It's good if you want to set a deadline on an assignment or if you want to make an activity ahead of time but not assign it yet. You can always see what you have archived by clicking here. One of the other activities I use often is photo. It's a great option for group notes that students have taken, for example. Perhaps they made a graphic organizer, did work on a whiteboard, or just prefer taking notes by hand. This is an easy way for them to turn in that work. Choose photo. Okay, so there's the photo activity. You can see that the icon is different. Now, let's unarchive that video assignment we made earlier. Click, edit, unarchive, and there it is. So what does all of this look like for a student? On a PC like this, students can edit their avatar to whatever they like, and they can see a running total of their score in this green bubble here. Activities are listed in a to-do menu here. Students can read the instructions and click through any links directly from the list if they like. Above the to-do list are a panel of tools like photo and video that students can use independently of the assigned activities. There's also Draw, a digital whiteboard, and File, which my students use a lot to add photos, additional photos, PDFs, PowerPoints, and more that they've created outside of ClassDojo. Finally, there's Journal, which some of my students use to type group discussion notes directly into ClassDojo, like this. You can save and come back to it later or hand it in. We're going to close it right now. And others use Journal to send me questions or let me know about something.
And this does handle any language, okay? So like Naoko, if your students wanted to write you in Japanese or in Vietnamese, they could do that. No problem.
Again, you can save, hand in, close. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual to-do assignments now. Let's click Start. Students can see the instructions again here, can watch your video instructions, and can click through to any links as needed. On a video assignment, the process is essentially the same as it was for you in TeacherView. Students can retake as many times as they need. They can show off what they've created, do presentations, read aloud, whatever you can think of. If students are uncomfortable being on camera, it's easy to just put something in front of the camera or just turn it towards a stuffed animal or something to take the video. Here's an example of something like that. In the caption space at the bottom, students can include a note to the teacher about their assignment. This blue button is hand in, but students also have the option of saving an activity they're working on and coming back to it later. If a student saves but doesn't turn in an assignment, it will show up as a draft. When they're ready to finish it, they can just return, edit, fix whatever they need to do, and hand in.
Hi, Janelle.
Now, if we go back home, the completed assignment is gone from the to-do list. Click back into Portfolio, and the student can view their completed work. ClassDojo puts the yellow Needs Review label on activities that have been submitted but not yet graded or accepted by the teacher. Let's go back to the teacher view and refresh the page and see what all of this looks like on the teacher side. Portfolio now shows that there's one activity needing review. You can click on the student's video and leave a comment. Let's pretend there's something missing and it needs a little more work. You can leave a comment and return as draft. Here we go. Return as draft. If we look at the student view again, so we're back in student view. If we look at the student view again, You can see that this assignment has returned to the to-do list for the student as a draft. They can read your note, make any necessary changes, or delete and try again. And hand in again. Back to teacher view. Refresh. You can watch the updated version again. Here we go. Leave some positive feedback for the student. And click accept. Click on the home button to give this student a score. This is a new assignment, so I'll add new points.
You don't have to do this every time. It's just when you have a new assignment. So this button will be there for all of the students once you cut it in there once.
Click. Click and done. I don't think it's a controversial statement to say that giving students the opportunity, supported with feedback, to try and try again until it's right, boosts motivation and leads to better outcomes in learning. All students benefit from programs that allow this. How about neurodiversity? Neurodiverse students may feel that they are navigating the neurotypical world to a certain extent as if it were a foreign landscape. The teacher and student aren't necessarily speaking the same language when they first meet. It takes time to understand a different way of thinking on both sides, making instructions more confusing and expectations for assignments harder to fathom. Making room for misunderstanding and space to address it is only fair. As for how time factors into the equation, both Jessica, the creator of How to ADHD, a leading resource on YouTube for understanding ADHD, and Lauren of the Living Well with Schizophrenia channel, a growing source for advocacy and understanding of people living with schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder. I'll share the links to their channels in the chat. Both of these now highly successful people have shared in their videos that lack of flexibility and deadlines played a major role in their failure at university. They were academically capable, but the system couldn't accommodate their needs for flexibility. In the past, I held on to strict deadlines as a teacher, mainly, I have to admit, because I couldn't stay organized otherwise. It seemed impossible on my side to have everyone moving at a different pace, far too much to keep up with. But iterative process was part of how this platform, how the ClassDojo platform was built. Time can be much more flexible because it's obvious what's been turned in, what hasn't, what needs to be checked, etc. I can offer the opportunity to try again, so why wouldn't I? I can offer the opportunity to be flexible with deadlines, so why wouldn't I? This new way of doing things has also created an environment to model healthy social skills. Hey, I'm sorry I didn't quite get the assignment done this week. Give me 10 minutes and I'll join in with you guys. Or, hey, I'm sorry I didn't quite get the assignment done. How about I take notes today for everyone? Our common conversations and group work in my class now. Apologize, offer an alternative, make the repair. No shame, just solutions. I think it's a better way.
Okay, so let me pause this again. So we kind of talked about this a little bit. So Naoko said, you said you don't really do a whole lot of this yet, but would you be interested in trying it? Well, I don't know that that's true though, because you use iterative process in your writing for sure.
Yeah, probably may not be for the writing classes because I do want to make a comment on their students' paper directly as an in-text comment. So Google Classroom is, I think, the best for it because now I was going to ask you, well, okay, so they submit their work.
Yeah.
Can they unsubmit their work?
Can they unsubmit their work? Kind
They
of.
do that. They did that. Oh, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. And then they can resubmit. They can just delete the submission. And then one day I was trying to kind of make a comment. Hey, you have not submitted your paper, right? Oh yeah, I was going to tell you because I made a mistake. So I'm going to resubmit later. I said, what? So I was wondering if same thing can be done for Dojo. No.
The reason why I said kind of is because no, once it's submitted, and I'll explain. Once it's submitted, the student can't delete it themselves. But what they can do is send me a message and say, that's not what I wanted to turn in. Can you send it back to me as a draft? And then they can delete it. But you have to go through that process of informing your teacher first. And I didn't understand that at the beginning, but just that kind of thing that Naoko's talking about right here, where you have that you kind of missed communication with a student who hasn't informed you about what's going to happen, or maybe somebody made a mistake or something. Because you have to take that extra step, then we're communicating better. So students have mixed feelings about it, but there are some benefits to it. You have to decide on what you prefer. Yeah, for writing, I could see Google Classroom really being better.
Yeah, because you can write in-text comments and directly on the paper. And then I do two things, like in-text comments and overall, it's called private comment for the student.
Yeah.
But I have to warn the students that, okay, make sure to download your paper. When you open it, you have to download it as Google document. Otherwise, you won't see my in-text comments.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know that until second paper, one student said, oh, you have all the comments for my paper? I said, don't tell me you didn't see my in-text comments that I spent so much time on. And so there's it's my fault. I should have known better, because from a student side that they have to download their file as a Google document. Otherwise they won't see the in-text comments. So yeah, it's interesting. But anyhow, yeah. But Dojo, I think I want to use Dojo for something like listening or discussion class.
It's great for listening class. It's really, really good for listening class. Yeah, I agree. It's not the most user-friendly for writing classes, although you can do it. My university uses OneDrive. The students are used to, in their other classes, using Microsoft OneDrive. And what they'll do is they'll send me a link to, I don't teach writing classes right now, I have to say, but if they've done something where it's a written paper, I have some students who'll send me a OneDrive link. I go to their OneDrive and you can comment within the program there. So it's still possible to submit things via ClassDojo as a link. That's an option, but I agree with you, it may not be the best for writing classes.
Yeah, I just use it well for Google Classroom. I use for literacy, which is reading and writing. So that's the class I use Google Classrooms. Other classes I use web class. It's like a blackboard.
Yeah.
It's like a blackboard.
Yeah.
So it's useful, but it's not useful for writing classes or discussions any sort. So that's something I found out.
Yeah, that's what I found with our universities is Manaba, which is another kind of.
Oh, that sounds similar to web class. Sounds like it.
It's terrible for video. I'm asking for a lot of, because I teach presentation, like a lot of my classes are presentation-based classes. And if you cannot support video files, it's a problem. Like if I can't have 50 people turn in video files, this is a huge problem for my class. And Manaba, at least as it exists at my university, is not great for that. It's very slow, it's very buggy, it's not good. Yeah. Dan, do you have any comments, questions?
Yeah, I guess, ClassDojo can be wonderful for speaking for the IELTS as well. I'm teaching some IELTS class, and also I give them a few questions. I ask them to just, practice and speak and record and give me something like, the audio files. I will listen again. And then, with, Dojo, they can just, make a video clip. And maybe there are a few questions. They can just finish maybe half of the questions and come back later and continue to do the rest. That's a wonderful way, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a great use.
Yeah. And for the, something like, try and try again, techniques. In fact, I often use Google Quiz.
Google quizzes.
Yeah, Google Quiz. And I just, adjust the setting that the students, they can just do it, but they cannot see the correct answer. Yeah. Then I just let them to just, do again and again until you get 100%. Yeah.
Really
This is wonderful for practice, I guess. Of course, for the scoring, for the assignments, we have to give them, something like explanation at the end. But in fact, for something like ongoing, assessment, they can just practice and practice until they can do again and again to remember. That's the way I ask them to do. Yeah.
I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah.
I didn't know it had that setting where you can just kind of retry until you
yeah. So you just say don't tick on collect limit to one response, because when you tick something like limit to one response, it means they can just submit for just one time, and with the same email they cannot submit for the second time. Only until you yourself, the designer, you have to delete that account, then the student can submit with the same email one more time. Yeah. Then we just do not click on the choice limit to one response, and they can just have unlimited responses. Yeah.
Really great.
And yeah, that's the way I often do in order to check something like vocabulary, and also sometimes grammar, or sometimes some reading comprehension as well. Ask them to do again and again. Yeah,
that would be a great way to do that. Okay, let's finish our last section here.
So that's mainly how it all works. Let's just look at a few final things to make sure you can use the platform smoothly if you choose to do so. Options menu. In the options menu, there are some things worth knowing. First, reset bubbles. If you have the same students more than one semester, you can reset the point bubbles when the new semester begins and save yourself the trouble of sending out ClassDojo invitations again. Next, display settings. You can make icons bigger or smaller. Change the way names are displayed. Unclick needs work notifications. That's not something I use anyway, but you can unclick those. And hide the point bubbles if you would like. There we go, hide the point bubbles. This is what no point bubbles would look like. I might use this to take a screenshot of my groups to share with students in the first weeks of the semester. It's just one more thing that you don't have to create from scratch. Finally, let's look at view reports. To see everything in the semester, click on all time. Then choose a student. You can see everything they've received points for in the semester. If you see an error, this is one place where you can remove it. You can also leave a note that you and the student can see. In this case, I'm imagining a scenario in which a student was exempt from an assignment because of a job interview. You can also choose to view this data as a spreadsheet. Or you can create PDFs, print out graphic representation of the reports for as many of your students as you need.
Okay. So that's the end of that, the how-to. That last bit there with the reports, I really like that feature where you can leave a note. That didn't used to be in there before, but it's nice when you've negotiated something with a student, like an alternative assignment or something that they don't have to do. You both have a written record there. And that's not just in teacher view, it's also in the student view that they can view their own report. They can't review anybody else's, but their own report they can see. And so, yeah, so you can have that dialogue about what they've gotten points for, why, if they're allowed to miss something, why, and so forth. Yeah. Do you have any last questions about anything?
Meagan, on ClassDojo, are there any limitations on the number of classes we open?
No, you can have as many as you want. Yeah.
Yeah. What about the number of students in each class? Also unlimited?
As I have not hit a limit yet, and my largest one was 125.
That's wonderful number. Yeah. Yeah. Because up until now, the biggest number of students in my class is 120.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect then. Yeah. It'll have no problem with that at all. And if you've got multiple sections of, well, the way I ended up with 125 was because I had 3 sections of a medical English class. So they were all doing the same assignments. So it was really silly to create a different class for each one and have to recreate the assignments and everything. So I put them all together in one, and then they were color coded by what hour they were in. And yeah, it handled that just fine. Even with all the videos coming in, it was almost exclusively video assignments in that class, no problem. It's great. Yeah. Downside to it in general, for the photos, like the photo assignments, you can only, within the assignment, you can only have 1 photo at a time. And that is a source of frustration for students because they'll want to be sending 5, 6, 7 photos. Get around that by using the tool at that top menu there. So within the assignment, they send the first one, and then they say, what I've asked my students to do is just tell me that there's more. And then because you can organize by student, like when you're grading, you can click on a student and see everything that they've submitted. So if this person has told you, hey, I've got 5 more photos, you just click on their icon and you can see everything that they turned in all together. You can get around it, but it's a little bit of a pain, and I wish they had something that would allow you to do multiple at the same time. The other thing that's a downside is the journal has no formatting, because originally ClassDojo was meant for elementary school and elementary school students. So they're not really thinking about paragraphing and essay writing and so forth. It's very, very simple. So you can't write essays within it, but you know, as we said, you can work around it.
Yeah, we can see from the icons and symbols. Originally designed for kids. Huh?
Definitely.
Mm.
That's, I suppose, another thing. Culturally, depending on the country, it may or may not work. So where I'm originally from in the US, I could see university students going, oh, that's for kids, it's no good. But in Japan, we have characters for everything.
Mm.
We have city mascots, we have, you know, like there nobody even thinks about it. Like the students really like having the little character, and they like customizing their own. So, you know, your mileage may vary depending on how your students feel about that.
Mm.
Anything else?
I like it. I'm interested in maybe from next year for the listening class, I might use this as a part of activity or
Yeah.
something they can be familiar. Because for my listening classes, I usually have textbook, and in addition to that, I just pull out YouTube, breaking news in English.com, and other websites to do some listening activity. But there's something they can do with this too. And discussion class, I think I can use it too.
Tian, do you know about Breaking News English? Do you use Breaking News English?
Again, Meagan?
Do you know Breaking News English? Have you used that before?
Breaking news in English?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
The website Breaking News English. It's a teaching website. Do you know?
TED, is it right?
No. This is something that was created by a teacher here in Japan, and I'm worried it's just in the Japan bubble, though it doesn't need to be. If I can pull it up here. This is not related to my presentation, but it's just really good.
Breaking news English. This is nice. Huh?
Yeah,
It's
this
useful.
They've got lots of different levels based on new current events news, and lots of activities that go with it. It feels a little old-fashioned now, but the content is still really good and the activities still work. So that's what she's talking about, is that website.
And you can use it any kind. They have activities and mini lessons ideas for you to use. And then I use for the listening a lot as a dictation practice. And that students love so much about dictation. No, they don't. But yeah, I use that for everybody. And for the discussion questions that he created, the guy who created the website, he has pretty good lesson plan. At the end, he has discussion questions that students can discuss, and then students can talk about it. You can use as a speaking or discussion class, listening, reading, everything you can use.
Yeah, so for me, I'm teaching university level, and for listening, they focus on something like authentic listening, and I often use bbc.com and also TED Talk, or maybe National Geographic. I ask them to focus on, one video clip, or maybe for 4 to 6 minutes. They need to watch maybe a few times, it depends on them, and they have to write a summary. Yeah. And also at the end, they have to cite, write out something like 5 to 10 new words, authentic, vocabulary they can learn from that. And they just, post the video onto the Facebook group, and also the summary, and also the words as well. Then in fact, they work in groups of 3, and the class we have about, 24 or maybe 27 students, or maybe 30. Then it's like one group, works, but we benefit the whole classroom as well. Everybody can just look at the video and they can just learn the new words. And this is the way, I guess, they can learn, authentic language from friends. Yeah. Because if they would love, they see the words interesting, useful to them, they will watch the video. In order to get more about that new words.
Yeah, I like TED Walk, not TED Talks, and I also TED Walks, but TED Talks. They have different topics, and I told them, there are different kind of English exist, so you have to get used to different kind of English as well. And then they can slow down the speed, and they have the caption or subtitles in English in their own language. But I usually use a subtitle for English. But yeah, I like TED Talks too.
Yeah. Same. I use them a lot in class as well, and much the same way that you've said you do with your Facebook groups. We do it on Zoom, but it's very similar idea.
Mm.
Summarize, answer questions together, talk
Yeah.
about new vocabulary. Yeah.
Summarize. It's always
Mm.
hard for them. Summarize.
Yep.
Don't include your opinion. Summarize.
Yep.
Yeah,
But
writing
Tiana,
a summary, writing a summary is in fact at a very high level of listening. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they need, you know, organization and selecting the best information, and also, maybe paraphrasing and many other skills as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. They have to take a good notes first, and then
Yeah.
based on the phrases and words, you have to come up with your own phrase, own saying of how you're gonna summarize it. Do
Yeah,
not
yeah.
include your opinion, and they always do. I don't know why. They didn't say that. That's your opinion.
yeah. You have to work on differentiating that. Yep, for sure. Tiana, I think we're probably at a pretty good spot to stop the recording anyway.
Yeah,
So, like,
sure. Yeah, sure.
anyway,